key to a successful fashion brand is that I feel really strongly about this, that whatever you do, it has to really come from the heart. So rather than thinking, ooh, what's the opportunity out there? I'll fill that hole. It's thinking about what makes you tick and what you're excited about. And if you really hold on to that, then the chances are that whatever you do will resonate with others because it comes from the heart. And I think that would be my number one piece of advice to anybody who's thinking of starting their own brand.
Welcome to the LMF Network Podcast. My name is Sonya Barlow. I'm the founder, CEO, and host. This podcast is all about sharing career stories, spotlighting amazing individuals doing extraordinary things. The LMF Network is on a mission to build the careers and confidence of 25,000 people by 2025 through mentorship, masterclasses, and meaningful conversations. This podcast is what you've been asking for. We cover everything from career stories, spotlight extraordinary individuals, all the way to how to overcome imposter syndrome, build on resilience, and just succeed in the way that you want within the workplace.
We have a supplier who has an office in Borough, so I just walked down this morning.
When you say supplier, do you mean the person who gives you the fabric or the person who buys your stock and then sells it?
So when we talk about suppliers, we're really talking about factories, but we either work direct with a factory or with a middle person, and this is a middle person. So they don't own the factory. They have a really long-standing relationship. He's taken the business over from his father, so they've worked with the same factory in Vietnam for like 30 years, maybe more. So what they do is we design, we hand them the sketch and the print, and they make the sample for us. We then fit the sample, and then they manufacture it through their factory. We call them suppliers, but I suppose to the layperson it would be a factory.
Yeah.
But it's just you don't get factories in Borough. Do you know what I mean?
I know, I was going to say that when you said that, I was like, weird, is it in the market? Like,
they just have their office. So they have an office, and then they have a machinist and a sample maker.
Very cool.
And it's all down in Borough, so I was there this morning.
Yeah, I mean, I learned about your brand last year, and obviously this is from your collection, which I saw online and became instantly obsessed with, not just because it's a little jacket, but it's red. Love it. And the reason why I originally found your brand is because I'm at this journey right now in my own life where I want to invest in female-founded businesses and or help their profiles with my own profile, because I think it's the least I can do in the space that I'm in. And equally, I'm learning a lot more about sustainability, but not the kind of sustainability that's just climate change and global warming, but sustainability in terms of what everyday actions can I change to ensure that I'm supporting the sustainability agenda. And one way that I believe I can do that is through investing in female-founded businesses, working with them, and or at least promoting them. What is your definition of sustainability?
So we launched the brand Albaray in 2021. It was a year after pandemic hit, so it was interesting times. And myself and my fellow co-founders, Paula and Kirsty, were at a stage where we had a career change and we felt that we have the skills, collective skills, to launch a brand. And fashion we've all worked in fashion retail for 30 years, so we have a huge amount of experience between us. And we felt that launching a new clothing brand in 2021, we had to take our responsibility seriously about how we can create a brand with a lesser impact on the environment. So we talk a lot. So sustainability or sustainable fashion is often overused. And I think as we tell the story about our brand, we're moving more to the word responsible.
Okay.
So responsibly sourced fabrics, responsibly made. And we're using that word more because we feel really strongly as founders of a new clothing brand that it's our responsibility to do the best that we can within the space that we're in. So sustainability in its true sense means putting back what you take out so you're not taking away. However, when you create clothes, you are taking something out, but there are ways of doing it with a lesser impact, and that's what we focus on. So if you look at, there are some really good reports. There's a McKinsey report about the CO2 emissions created by the fashion industry. And if you look into that, the biggest chunk comes from the processing, from the raw material to the fibre and the wet processing of the garment. So that means, for example, if you take viscose, which is a really beautiful, soft fabric, it's breathable. It was invented to be a silk alternative, but it comes from wood.
Okay.
So trees are cut down to create viscose.
I don't know that. If anything, that's my key takeaway from this as well.
And it's about learning and educating and understanding like the journey of your clothes right the way back to the raw materials. So if trees are being cut down to create viscose fabric, you have to think about, well, is that sustainable? So we use an eco viscose from a company called Lenzing, who right the way back to where the wood is cut, they carefully manage the trees in the forest. They don't cut the whole tree down, they cut parts of the tree down, let it grow back. So it's a carefully managed process. So therefore, the source of that fibre is sustainable. But there is a but. To take wood and make it into a fabric, you have to, first of all, create a pulp out of the wood. And then from the pulp, it is a chemical process that spins it into the viscose yarn. So what Lenzing do is they also very carefully manage that chemical process. They use a lot less water than generic viscose, and they ensure that chemical process does not go into the local environment. So, you really have to think about your CO2 emissions are really important because that is really the big influence on climate change. So if you think about, well, if that's the processing, if we can make a change in that part, so that part of the process to make a garment is probably creates about 60 to 70% of the CO2 emissions. So it's big and it's a lot of processes. So if you really work on making that the best that you can, then you are making a lesser impact than if you don't. So that's how we see it. And that's our view on sustainability. So it's about taking a responsibility to lessen the impact that we have on the environment. Or if that was a bit technical.
It was slightly technical, but I really enjoyed learning about that bit. And the reason I say bit is because that's one part of a wider process. And so where I am in my life, but also a lot of the great women, especially in my immediate circle, who are thinking about, well, we earn good money, we have disposable income, we want to invest in how we look, but we also want to invest in bettering our purchasing power and our choices. I think it's really interesting when we think about sustainability. It's not just, are the women being paid fairly in the workspace, and do they have a place to live and sleep? And it's not fast fashion, but it's also, what does the climate process look like? And I've actually never considered it. That's why I'm sitting here, not only being like, that's fascinating, but also being like, how smart are people? Like, someone thought you could use a chemical on tree pulp and create fabric.
I know, it is very fascinating. And it was done, I think it was the 1920s that it was invented, or the 30s. But I think going back to what is sustainable, what is your view on sustainability? That's just one part of it.
Yes.
And then responsibility. So then you need to think about, you mentioned ethically made. So we work with a small group of factories that we have known for a long time and that we've visited pre-COVID. We used to visit a lot, that we trust, that are accredited. So we feel confident that the people along the way are being treated fairly, paid fairly. Ethos flows into our own team, and we ensure that we create a good place to work, flexible place to work. We've got a really small team. We have a few members who work part-time, so we create a flexible working space so they can work around families or life events.
And I think that's super cool. And it's super cool because the premise of this conversation was also get to know you, but also think about the word sustainability from a different angle. And I think a lot of us, especially when there's so much online noise and media and choices, information, and now you can purchase items from anywhere or everywhere, people don't necessarily think about where that's come from versus like, oh, well, the price tag must show that it's sustainable and the tag says it's sustainable. But I think I've come to this point now where I'm like, I want to understand what that really means versus just like anyone can stamp sustainable, right?
Well, I mean, some people do, and that's why I think that it's been overused. And I think that it's really about, and there's a lot of information out there if you kind of Google. A lot of what I've learned has either been from previous jobs where there are teams that work on sustainability, and I've learned a lot through that, or I've really just into reports and information. And once you learn about the impact of fashion on the industry. You can't unlearn that. So it's like when we were sort of launching a brand when we did, it was like, we've got to do this. We've got to embed it into
foundations, which is a lot of what we do in the D&I space. When I think about diversity, equity and inclusion, I'm always saying to clients and organizations that I work with, being like, this is like your brickwork, because your foundations, it's not something that you're going to sprinkle on top. It's not the icing on the cake. It literally is the batter, the ingredients, the foundation. It's baked in, absolutely. Yeah. And they're like, what do we don't understand? I'm like, well, if you don't have the financial budgets for it, if you don't have the investment, if you don't have the strategy or the KPIs, also if you don't have the people involved from the get-go, then it's really hard to fix a problem that you could have solved right at the beginning, because you have the policies and processes right away. And it's not to say that everything needs to be perfect. It's at least you're giving it a go.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've hit on a really key point there. I think it's about taking it seriously and doing everything within your power that you can make change, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's perfect. But I also think it's about the willingness to learn and constantly be thinking, how can we do this better? And as our team grows, there are brands out there that we sit alongside who would have a whole team of people who are just working on their sustainability. We're doing it amongst ourselves. I mean, yes, we have got experience, but we're constantly learning and thinking how we can make things better. And I think it then rolls on into your choices. So when you're shopping and you're thinking about buying new clothes, it's about thinking about, will I wear this a lot? Will I have it for a long time? Will I be wearing this next year and the year after that? And that is part of what we think about when I'm designing the collection.
Do you design it yourself?
Yeah, so I'm the head designer.
And you say we, so there's 3 of you who founded the business.
Yeah, so 3 founders. I'm the creative. Paula is our CEO, and her background was fashion buying, and she was MD in our previous role. And then Kirsty is chief commercial director, and she's the numbers and the planning and the logistics.
And who originally came up with the idea? So who had this is a moment we need to latch onto?
I think there was a glass of wine involved with Paula and I sitting outside. It was COVID times, remember? And we both thought there is an opportunity here to start a brand. We took a bit of time to think about it, and we floated the idea with Kirsty. And then by the end of that first summer, we were like, right, are we doing this? And then it happened actually very, very quickly.
And where does the name come from?
So the name...
It's Albaray.
I say Albaray.
Or Albaray.
But some people say Albaray, but I say Albaray. And it's 2 words together. So Alba, which comes from, it's a Spanish and Italian word, and it translates to dawn or sunrise. And we put that together with ray, Albaray. So it was sunrise with a ray of, you could say, light, hope. So for us, it was a new beginning with hope.
That's a great story. And when I was doing my research online, every kind of article I came across referenced the fact that you used to work at warehouse, which is great. I think it's awesome that you had that experience, and I loved warehouse once upon a time. But do you feel like that's helped or hindered your new legacy that you're building?
I think it was a story at the beginning when we launched. It was part of the story. The 3 of us had worked at warehouse previously. I think as time goes on, it becomes less important as part of the story. And I think we're all really proud that we worked there, and that's where we met. And it's part of our it's part of our history. But I do think that as we move forward, we're now 2 and a bit years old. That will just it will just fade into the history, and we will become Albaray. We are Albaray.
A couple of months ago, we had an episode with Tolo, who runs Flory in London, and she designs her own handbags. And I just found the process really interesting. I was like, you sit, you design, you source, you leather, you sew, you bring it together. And I can't imagine it's too different, but I'd love to therefore ask you, how do you, 1, find inspiration for your designs, and 2, how do you actually sit and design the items?
Yeah, so in terms of inspiration, there's such a broad spectrum of things that we look at, and it could be from literally just seeing somebody walk down the street and go, oh, she looks cool. I like that. She's wearing double denim. I'm liking the look of that. There is just like a sort of a melting pot of inspiration to be found on social media. There is so much history in fashion that if you dig deep, you go to vintage markets, you look at vintage sellers online, there is so much inspiration that you can draw from. And then part of it is thinking about, what do I want to wear and what feels good for me? So, I could sit here all day and talk about where we find our inspiration. It is everywhere. And then I think once you've collected that, so we'll work on a laptop, we'll pull all that information together, whether it's photos that we've taken on our phone, screen grabs from anything, Pinterest, whatever. And we'll start to put mood boards together. And then once we've got that, we've got a bit of a plan, and you just literally just pick up your pencil and start drawing.
And how in advance do you create a design? And then you have to go and get it ready for production. And then when does it normally launch? So what does that timeline look like?
So the timeline is about 10 months.
Oh, okay. So this was created 10 months prior to it coming into the shop floor.
Yeah.
Interesting.
About 10 months. Maybe it depends on which country we're working with. It can be slightly less than that. So that jacket, for example, I have a really beautiful vintage Indian woodblock dress I've had for years.
And this is the vibe it's giving.
This is the vibe. So we took elements of the print design and redesigned it with our supplier. They also had an archive of woodblock prints, which they shared with us. And we were like, oh, I like that one, put that one with that one. And then we had a border and we played around a bit with the border. So we had our 3 prints. And then we just wanted a really easy little kind of cute little jacket shape. So just sketch it and you just think, okay, I want some little covered buttons, little button loops to make it so that you can wear it open and it still have nice details. So yeah, that's how they create.
That's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
Has there been a design that you've designed that has completely flopped or failed, or yeah, there has.
Always, yeah. Always.
Do you remember one that you can share?
Yeah. Okay. So the very first collection, I designed a jumpsuit, which was made of this beautiful fabric, which is a tencel fabric, which again has got really good sustainable qualities as a fabric. And I wanted it to be really simple, but I designed it with this drawstring that went through the neck, became the straps, and went around the back, and then it tied up at the back. But what I didn't realise was that it didn't really work because it was a jumpsuit. So it was actually really hard to get on. So sometimes I would see that as like a bit of a technical fail. It was done in the very first collection. Everything was done very quickly, probably just didn't give it enough time to road test. And then sometimes you just design something that you love, but unfortunately the customers don't love. So it just doesn't sell as well.
And do you take that personally?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's good.
Yeah.
But do you think that's with experience and over time?
Yes.
Did you used to, when you first started in the industry, take things personally?
I think, yes, I would have done. And I think with experience and time, you just have to realise that not everybody sees things with the same eyes that you do. Not everybody likes the same things. People say, what is the essence of your collection, or what is it? How do you describe it? And I actually find that really hard to answer. And I always think, well, it's just stuff we like. So it can be. When you think about the Albaray collection, it's curated. We work on great classic pieces like the jeans, the T-shirts that we literally wear day in, day out. Really good quality. We focus a lot on the fit. And then we have some simple dresses, but we also have some more striking, standout pieces. So it's this kind of blend, and we can't really think about each individual piece, about how can you wear it? Can you wear it multiple times? Because I think that's really important. Once you buy something from us, we want you to wear it a lot. So your jacket, can you dress it up? Can you wear it with a pair of jeans? Can you wear it in the summer? Can you wear it in the autumn?
Which I think is an element of sustainability.
Absolutely.
And that's personally something that I'm going down with my group of friends, being like, oh, you've got this one item. Can you wear it more than once? And if you can you keep it forever? But I find a lot of the times the problems are not with us, but it's with other people. So what I mean by that is I do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of events. I'm really in the public eye a lot more than I used to be. And so sometimes I do get comments of people like, oh, you're repeating outfits? Oh, we already saw you in that. And in the beginning, I used to be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. And then I got to a point where I was like, wait, but why should I not? If 1, I love it, and 2, I'm trying to be more sustainable, and 3, it's directly making me feel confident, and 4, it's helping the brand that I'm working with, but 5, and most importantly, it's my choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
It changes the way you think. But again, I think that comes with experience. In my early 20s, I would have not been the same that I am now. I would have been like, oh, you can't repeat outfits, and things have to be on trend. Whereas now I'm like, I'm not really dressing for trends, I'm dressing for confidence. And I think those are 2 different things.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think in terms of debunking fashion myths, I think buying into trends would be one of those. I think Absolutely. If feeling relevant and within the kind of realms of what's going on in fashion gives you confidence, then absolutely. But also think about longevity. So you can be on trend with something and still be wearing that in years to come. Don't wear the same thing over and over again if you're in the public eye. It's just crazy. I think the more people that do it, the more normal it becomes, and the more people feel comfortable in it, and actually to be proud of it.
And I also think the comparison is really wild, and like a negative wild, in the sense of like, well, that celebrity doesn't. It's like, well, do you not understand that they have a whole team behind them and this is literally their job? And they've got brands who want to work with them, and they've got a lot more avenues and time and progress. We are one people who are trying to start from the bottom up and moving on. But also, like, why is that a problem if you're re-wearing outfits? And I find when you're younger, the concept of fast fashion is, oh, you can buy that, don't worry about it, it's a £5, it's not going to last that long anyway. It's like, buy that for a holiday or buy that for like a little takeaway. And now I'm like, why would I want to do that? I want to buy something that I can wear on multiple holidays. I want to keep it for like 10, 15 years. I want to consider it an investment.
Yeah.
Is maybe what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And I think that is a more responsible way of buying clothes.
And do you see the trends in fashion moving towards investing in pieces versus just buying it for the sake of buying it? Or do you see both polarized groups?
Well, I think because of you do find yourself in a bit of a bubble, and because I am in a more sustainable place in the way that I shop and the way that I think about clothes, I'm definitely seeing a return to classics and building, I don't know, a 10-piece wardrobe that can be worn like multiple times. That is absolutely, I would say that is on trend at the moment.
Like a capsule wardrobe.
Capsule wardrobe. If you think about the cost of living crisis that hit us, that we're still in, buying more sensibly and buying better and buying pieces that can be worn in many ways is definitely of the moment. But I also think it's a really good way to think about choosing items and shopping, and pieces that can be worn in spring and summer and also layered in autumn is a really good way to think about things, so that you're not having to sort of like pack your autumn wardrobe away and get your spring one out, but you've got pieces, I don't know, it could be a satin slip skirt that you could wear with sandals and then wear boots.
Well, that's exactly that. And a lot of my fashion inspiration now comes from Pinterest. I'm like, how do I rewear these items and make it look cool? Yeah. But also, how do I come out of my box and wear something that maybe I wouldn't necessarily wear, but try something new? It sounds like your approach is really grounded to building a business, but I'd love to touch on who you thought was originally your demographic and has that changed over time? Because I guess from a business standpoint, if we focus on just the commercial gains, you have to have a target market in mind before you create any kind of forward-facing thing, right?
Yeah, and I think the reason why we launched Albaray was because we felt there was an opportunity in the market, and we felt that there were a group of women who were like us, who were thinking more about buying more sensibly, more responsibly. And the three of us, the three co-founders, we've all worked in the business for like 30 years. I graduated with a fashion degree 30 years ago. It's a long time to work in fashion. We're here because we love clothes. That's what makes us tick, and we're really passionate about it, and we get excited about clothes. And we believe that our target customer is also a woman who gets excited about clothes, who is interested in clothes, but wants to think about a more responsible way to shop, is looking for quality at a good price for that quality, but also can kind of build the wardrobe. And we think about, we want to create clothes that can kind of slot into your existing wardrobe as well, that just can work back with, whether you're buying a really great pair of jeans from us and then you can wear that with the tops that you've already got, or whether you've been to our vests and our t-shirts, which just layer
So the everyday woman, but with disposable income or investment income.
I think some disposable income. We all need a bit of disposable income in order to treat ourselves to new clothes. We want to attract customers who are thoughtful about their purchases, who will treat themselves to a new dress for an event in the summer, but know that it's made of organic cotton and actually can wear it with the heels to this event.
And trainers to something else.
Yeah.
And if I got to know you a little bit more personally, so that are you the type to invest in your finances in in a great holiday or like a great handbag?
I think I'm probably personally more sort of an experiential person, and would feel more comfortable in taking a family on holiday than investing in just one handbag for myself.
And would you rather create alone or create with people?
I think when I'm in my creative space, I am absolutely on my own, And often we'll do that in the evenings and the weekends when the email and the phone is not bothering me. I'm very much I really need headspace to get into thinking about the design. I can't just do it for 10 minutes in between calls, and I definitely need quiet and peace.
And when you think about running a business, growing a business and scaling, would you rather have initial immediate viral success or slow, steady, long-term success?
Slow, steady and long-term is really what we're setting out to do. When we launched the collection, I designed a gingham dress that was hugely popular, and a lot of people bought the dress and shared it on social media, which was great for us because we're the new kid on the block, and it's how you spread the word. Social media is great for that when you're a small brand. And we were delighted that we had this I wouldn't call it a viral dress, but it was hugely popular and it got us out there. So we'll very happily take something that goes viral along the way, but I think it really is about your building blocks and steadily building a foundation and a business to grow.
And that brings me on to a few points that I just want to touch on before we start wrapping up. You work with marketing agencies, you work with PR agencies. At what point did you make a conscious decision in your business that you needed to invest in marketing or PR?
So the business plan right from the beginning took into account digital marketing. What we, I suppose, to an extent, we underestimated PR a bit. So we work with quite a small digital marketing agency and we set aside budget for that. And then what we've learned from understanding the importance of PR is that we have an amazing PR consultant she works freelance. And so she works a couple of days a week for us. Again, she's got lots of experience from the industry. And it's so important for us as a brand, I think more important for a new brand than it is an existing brand, but it's still very important to continually have that drumbeat of just getting your brand out there and getting people. There are still hundreds of thousands of women in the UK who've never heard of Albaray.
And PR and marketing, does that support you from a brand awareness and reach perspective, or is a metric more about conversion and the sales that you can bring in?
It's both.
Okay.
It's both. So it's about getting your brand known and out there, but absolutely it is a metric in terms of sales.
And the other reason I ask that is because in contrast to maybe what I do, I have quite a strong personal brand, but I think as founders, you all don't have strong personal brands. When you go online and you search you all up, is that a conscious decision that you've made within the business?
Yeah, I think Albaray is female founded and we are the three women that got it off the ground, but for us, it's about the clothes. It's not about us. We're not.
So you don't feel the need to style your own clothes and pop up pictures of how you've worn them as founders?
Not so much.
Okay.
I do the odd bit. I do run our social media, our Instagram account, and there's the odd bit of me.
Yes.
I did a few lives back when we were starting out. You might see the odd mirror selfie.
Yeah.
But it's blended in with, we also work with my team. I have my designer, my assistant designer. They do content, they create stuff. We do reels and just go out and shoot stuff on them. So we try and blend it up. But it's not, I don't think as the founders of Albaray, we necessarily wanted to be the face of the brand. We're very happy building the brand to stand on its own 2 feet.
Which one would you rather, starting a fashion brand, making sustainable choices, or running a business?
I think maybe starting a fashion brand.
Cool. So my final question for those individuals who are listening and learning and wanting to start their own fashion brand, what would your some of life lessons or career advice be?
So I think the key to a successful fashion brand is that I feel really strongly about this, that whatever you do, it has to really come from the heart. So rather than thinking, ooh, what's the opportunity out there? I'll fill that hole. It's thinking about what makes you tick and what you're excited about. And if you really hold on to that, then the chances are that whatever you do will resonate with others because it comes from the heart. And I think that would be my number one piece of advice to anybody who's thinking of starting their own brand. If you stick with that and build on it, but also learn along the way. So as you start to sell your clothes or no matter how small, start to get feedback from your customers, learn. Don't be a sponge. Take that on board and be willing to make changes to make your brand better, to improve. Always be open to doing things differently.
Well, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned so much. I'm sure our listeners have too. And if you want to find out more about the brand and Karen herself and get in touch with Albaray, is that the correct pronunciation? Albaray. All the details are in the description, and also there'll be tags all across social media. Please like, share, and subscribe. And most importantly, invest in female-founded brands.
You can get involved in the podcast by following @LMF Network or getting in touch via hello@lmfnetwork.com. You can also watch the visual podcast on YouTube and Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. So make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you join in the conversation and share with all your friends, family, and network because, and we say this, 80% of your opportunities come through your network. And so we really want to make sure that we help you shine.